Oscar nominations are out. How well did family movies do this year? This is Common Sense Explains. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I am Lorena Taboas. The nominations for the Academy Awards were announced, and as usual, the nominated movies are mostly geared towards older teens and adults, a trend we've unfortunately seen play out year after year. Let's talk to Betsy Bosdek, editorial director at Common Sense Media, about why family films are not making the cut. Betsy, your team at Common Sense reviews hundreds of movies a year. What are your thoughts on the family films that were released in 2022?
I think there were a lot of great movies out for kids this year. I don't think a lot of them were in theaters. I think that what we've seen, especially since COVID and the pandemic, is a shift, an increasing shift, a continuing shift toward putting a lot of marquee kids content on streaming services. I understand that as a parent myself. It's very handy to be able to watch things in your comfort of your own home, pause, get your snacks, go to the bathroom. But I think a lot of families really miss having good opportunities to go to the theater, to enjoy that experience of sitting in the dark with the popcorn and the snacks. And it's when you only have one every couple of months that you feel you can take a kid under, 10 or 12 to, then you don't get those experiences very often.
So why do you think that production studios aren't making these family-friendly films? Not just, blockbusters, but the ones that are being played in the theaters. Does it have to do with money, budget? Do they think that there's a lack of an audience? Like, what is it?
I think it always has to do with money. I mean, I think, first, at the end of the day, Hollywood is a business and they are going to make the movies that they think they're going to do the best on financially. And chicken egg, we see it when movies like The Grinch or Pixar movies or things like that come out and they are truly kid friendly. The Peanuts movie was another one. They end up, if they're good movies and they're really kid friendly, they do well, but they're very few and far between. So you get a lot more movies that will, like the Marvel movies, which are great for tweens and up, and you see those creeping down, right? So like the 7 and 8 year olds are coming along with the family. So that's a family movie. It's fine. We have something to go see, but there's not a lot out there for really younger kids that isn't scary, doesn't have a villain, is just a really fun, upbeat movie.
So before we jump into Betsy's thoughts on this year's Oscar nominations, how exactly does the biggest award show in entertainment choose its nominees? Let me explain. The Oscar nominations are selected by members of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Each member belongs to one of 17 branches: actors, cinematographers, costume designers, and so on. Most categories are nominated by the members of that corresponding branch. Actors nominate actors and directors nominate directors. But all members of the Academy can vote to nominate the Best Picture. Now, what are the demographics of voting members? The Academy is made up of 9,000 members, and about 80% of them are white and 67% of them are men. Older data suggests that the average age of voting members is 63 years old. So Betsy, nominations were just announced last week. What was your first takeaway when you heard the films that were nominated this year?
Well, just as a movie consumer in general, I thought there are a lot of really interesting movies nominated this year. I am a big fan of Everything Everywhere All at Once. I thought it was the most original, interesting, unique movie I saw all year in many years, frankly. Not for little kids. Most aren't. I think that, I don't think the Oscars is ever going to be a hotbed of family film nominations. I think they have the animated film categories. They have some of the effects categories. That's where you tend to see movies that are a bit more kid friendly. I was somewhat taken aback to see Top Gun Maverick get a Best Picture nomination. Best family friendly or no, I don't think it really belongs in the mix. Wasn't at all surprised about Avatar based on how the first one did. And that's sort of getting into that Marvel territory where it's definitely, a lot of tweens see it and it's probably fine for most of them. And there's some interesting movies in the animated category. Pinocchio is very beautifully done. I really like The Sea Beast and Turning Red, and my son loved Puss in Boots, and I am totally blanking on what the fifth one is. Sorry, fifth one. But there's a lot of great choices in there. And, but a lot of those were in theaters for like a little bit before they went onto the streaming services. Pinocchio, Turning Red, and Sea Beast were all really, people think of those as like Disney Plus or Netflix titles. They don't think of them as theatrical titles.
Right. So we're not seeing a lot of family movies, but we're also not seeing G-rated movies. I mean, the last one to be nominated for Best Picture was in 1996, Babe. So what's happening to the G-rated movie? Is it going to disappear?
There really aren't any. I mean, it's basically extinct. I mean, you see a couple every year that come out, maybe a nature documentary, maybe something for little kids. Like I think the Peanuts movie when that came out was G, but even that Grinch movie, I think even though it was so gentle, it was PG. There's a perception that kids are going to look at G and think, oh, that's too babyish. But I honestly don't think kids have any awareness of ratings. They just want to see a movie. And if it's advertised to them, I don't think they're going to be like, I don't want to see a G-rated movie. I mean, maybe when you get to teenagers, but I don't think they're going to want to, if they think they're over cartoon movies, they're over cartoon movies, whether it's a G or a PG. So I think that we've just ended up, it's just not a rating that people pursue anymore.
So, I mean, you brought up Turning Red. It's one of the favorites this year. It was a favorite in my house with my son. We loved watching it. So what do you think makes a really good family movie, especially the ones that were nominated?
That's a great question. I think a great family movie has, a really, interesting story. I love ones that are unique. I mean, I love fairy tale adaptations or, movies based on characters, but my favorites are the ones that are something I've never seen before. That's why Pixar for so long was like my go-to, because I had never seen a movie about talking toys. I had never seen a movie about the emotions that live inside your head. I love that stuff. So an interesting, unique story with a really thoughtful story that is developed that makes you feel, all the feels. It's like not just sort of like double entendres and wink, wink, nudge, nudge jokes for the parents. I think that is fine. It's fun, but it's not as hard. They're not putting in the work as much as the people who really develop a story and the characters as well as they do. And I think, finding ways to relate to kids and to highlight things that are worth them learning from the movies, like character strengths. We like to tag movies based on 11 different character strengths at Common Sense. And if you can have a movie with teamwork or perseverance or self-control or integrity, that's, icing on the cake.
So the Oscars and really any award show isn't the best place for parents to find like good content or good movies for them to watch with their kids. So where can parents go to find that?
Common Sense Media, of course. I think, there are a lot of options out there for families right now. I mean, there are so many streaming services. I don't know how long that's going to last, but there are so many right now. And a lot of them, Disney, Amazon, HBO Max, they have movies coming out regularly that are targeted at families. I think, like the Sea Beast, like I said, I think people think of that as a Netflix movie because it was in theaters for like a week and then it was on Netflix, and they were throwing it to you. So you're going to see great choices for kids on most of the streaming services. I do think there is some stuff to see in the theaters. I mean, like you look at something like not the Oscars, but the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice movies, they found lots of stuff to nominate that are kids' favorites. So it's out there. You just have to maybe not look to the Academy for it.
I think parents are going to have some great takeaways from your suggestions. Thank you so much, Betsy. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. You can find a list of our ratings and reviews for this year's Oscar-nominated films in the episode description. And make sure to subscribe to our channel to hear from other Common Sense experts on all the media and tech topics you need to know about. Until next time.